Hey, Blue Table fans. What if I did the whole thing in profile? Hey, Blue Table fans. Hey! That's how I wake up every morning. Oh God, I'm back in this reality. All right, so listen up. I went on my Facebook page. By the way, you can be my Facebook friend. You just got to check the liner notes. It has like a little thing. I've given up on privacy to some degree. All right, so I asked for Ramble subjects, and here it goes. You get to hear my beautiful voice. And by the way, behind the scenes, everything's going great. All the projects are getting through. It's really smooth. It's picking up some steam. My crew is stronger than ever. Makes me happy inside my heart. All right, guys, so I asked for subjects. Here we go. Chris F. says, favorite movies or novels, getting into mini wargaming, travel or lifestyle advice. Ooh, what to do if you're not seeing your painting skills advance. All right, let's work backwards. What to do if you see your painting skills not advancing? I don't know. Mine haven't advanced for a long time. They've advanced in weird self-taught ways, and I've gotten faster. So like crazy, like it's gotten faster and it's gotten better. So I've self-invented techniques that really just they work well. They're leveraged is what I say. So. All right, yeah, guy, seriously, like I watch how-to videos and I'm just like, ugh, this is taking a long time. And okay, it feels like this is an inspiration issue. So what you gotta do is you gotta buy a timer. And you set the timer, and it's gotta be like an egg timer that makes ticking noises. And all you do, once you get your time, once you get your timer, is just set it for 15 or 20 minutes and say, I'm going to do this for 15 or 20 minutes. And then I'm going to stop. And then that's it. And then that becomes a manageable bite-sized chunk, and it gets that ticking sound, gives you motivation. And you might be so procrastinating that you won't even get the timer. Well, you got to do. There's online timers. Google online timer that makes a ticking noise. I bet you'll find one. There definitely are online timers. All right, next thing is travel or lifestyle advice. Oh my gosh. So my self-improvement for 2015 was men's style, and I actually got a wardrobe. So my advice is get some style to begin with. There's like a zillion people that are great on YouTube. You just got to find some that work for you. And everybody, obviously, style by nature is very personal. But like with the painting thing, do something. Come on. And you might think, I don't have money for wardrobe. Well, you got money for a shirt. I mean, go to a mid-level place like Macy's or whatever and buy a shirt. And not a comfortable, don't buy cargo pants. Don't buy that stuff that, you know, that dads buy. That's like you gave up. No. It's got to go up a level. Watch a few. Just type in men's style on YouTube. You have a world of wisdom available. And just start watching videos in the background. Don't make it a big deal, but some of that will stick out to you. And then make a favorites list, and then maybe subscribe to some guy that seems like it feels like what you like, and get a couple of button-up shirts for spring. Not Hawaiian shirts. Nothing with like, you know, that's egregious. That's for kids. That's for a high schooler. That's for a barbecue with your buddies. But get something, and get some shorts with just pockets and not cargo shorts, like nice shorts. So, yeah. Oh, I guess that wasn't, that said lifestyle, not style. Lifestyle advice. So first off, make up your own thing and don't listen to other people. But since you asked, I would say to live a life where the opinions of other people don't matter to you so much. Live a little more reclusively. I always tell my kids if they ever get into trouble online, with the interwebs, that they should, I say, just call me and I can take you out into the real world. Real world means no cell phones, no internet, and just and we can go live somewhere and get away from that. And I'm the last generation that had that grew up without anything. And I'm not saying it's great. Like, it's nice. I have this thing where I can just put in my headphones and literally choose from 20,000 different movies and just watch it on this tiny little screen. It's the best! Getting into mini wargaming, I guess I could just tell my story. 1997, I remember it was. I lived with my young wife. We were in our mid-20s. I was probably 27, 28 at the time. And no, I was 28. And I ran a role-playing game. And two of the guys there, after my game, they would go over to one of the dudes' house and they would play Warhammer 40K. He was Orcs. The other guy was Space Marines. And then the guy just had a stack of his books and stuff, and he had a couple of White Dwarf magazines, and as soon as I looked at that and they explained it to me, bam, I was hooked. It was a seminal moment, and I just couldn't take my eyes off it within days, because if I get into something, boy, I go. And I bought 56 Eldar infantry from this guy. I just started learning how to paint. There wasn't anything out there how to paint. There was an heavy metal book, like by Games Workshop, but it was so advanced I couldn't even understand. I didn't even know to buy acrylics. I mean, I got some really bad advice here and there. So, by the way, thank goodness for the internet. The internet is really an amazing thing, and as a human society, we haven't had time to digest just the internet. Like, we haven't been able to get it sorted out. We still think in like an old way. And even in the past 100 or 200 years, there's been so many technological advances compared to the last 5,000 years. It's crazy. It's like going down the first part of a roller coaster. It's not. And now AI. Ah! It's like a singularity approaches in 10 to 40 years, where it will be just so fast you just simply won't be able to adapt to it ever. We'll have to adapt to that. And that's the human's great thing is adaptability. So I want to talk about something else that was on my mind for this that has to do with another comment later. You know what? I better do it now before I forget. Okay, so hold on. This guy just said favorite movies or novels. We'll get back to that. It says, this is by David J. So thank you very much for being a fan and being my Facebook friend. How has their relative financial success changed Games Workshop from the company we seemed to know back in the 90s to a company that seemed like strangers today? Haha, that's such a huge topic. First off, humans are awful. Humans aren't awful. They're great. They're kind of both. And the thing is, it's not Games Workshop, it's the fans. Something changed in 2006 to 2008 where Games Workshop, they just clammed up. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want, like, they just sort of they were just doing their thing, and there was no way for fans to sort of voice their opinions. And therein lay the problem. What was happening in 2007, 2008? Comments! Comments! I've got opinions about comments. So basically what's happened is, in times of yore, back in the 80s, in order to be heard, you had to get an ad in the paper, or you had to have some sort of a written medium to get out there. You had to put out flyers, and even then your reach was very, very, very small. So what's happened is, to blurt out your opinion is now nothing. Anybody can do it. And even worse, it can be done anonymously. And so, like, I don't even read the news anywhere, but sometimes I'll go to the homepage of wherever and I'll just be scrolling through and it'll be like, here's this serious topic. Insane Monkey 666 says blah, 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 blah. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Who cares? And I'm just like, comments, please. So it's like, for me, if there's anonymity, I give 0 value, even a negative value. Like a comment isn't contributing anything. And I think what's happening is there's this vast majority of humans out there that think they're contributing something by taking a dump on your lawn. Like, just, oh, I think this, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and it's great sport to troll people. And it's just like, it's just become this terrible low-level sludge of something that's even like, it's just, it's like a pigsty. Cleaning a pigsty where it's all just like rotted out in the bottom. It just all just shoveling that out. That's kind of like what the comments section can be. Now, on the other hand, it can be glorious and wonderful, egalitarian, gives people that otherwise wouldn't have had a say. Maybe they're a little shy, but they're smart. So the value of the comment at face value. And those I do love. And I do check the comments section. And sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm almost like reaching for my keyboard like to make a comment on it. And it's like, eh. So comments have changed our society. That things like just, oh, okay, I posted a thing, I'll open up a forum. And it's implied that you want criticism, you want people to say something. When in reality, I just as soon turn them off and just have my thing. Because then, as a creator, it gets in your head. You start thinking, ooh, but what will they think? Like with my role-playing book, I'm just like, oh no, I better censor this. I better change it so it's acceptable to other people. And then, of course, your spirit dies, your voice dies. The thing that you were going to create, your song, now just sort of gets like decayed because of self-editing and self-censorship. So that's what's happened to Games Workshop, is the fans started becoming loud and getting more of a voice, and it's just, and you just can't, like I just groan. Games Workshop comes out, oh, here's this new product line and this new faction that we made that's so incredible, and then it's just like, man, what? Eldar haven't had an update since the 90s. I'm just like, if I had created this, I would be sad. I'd just be like, well, can't you just like it? Don't people like things anymore? Have something positive to say? Like, it's just this, this sort of orchestra of ingratitude. And I just, wow, that volume kind of crept up on that one. Jeez. So there you go. What happened to Games Workshop? They're awesome. They did a good job. They're coming out with things that are just mind-blowing, like the redos of Nagash. Remember the old pewter Nagash? It was like, and he had like a sword or something sticking up. And that was big, to put something on a 40mm base, and it was 2 or 3 inches tall. I was like, oh, that model's so big, that's so amazing. And now it's just like, like the leap between the different versions of things is just so incredible. Ariel, I had a trade-in where a guy traded in a 90s Wood Elves Ariel, you know, the Wood Elf butterfly gal, and it was lame. It was so bad. Like, even back then we were like, ugh, that doesn't look that good. But people painted it up to super high quality, and they did and now the new one with like that giant beetle, and she's like, and has like angel wings with mechanics and some wood and stuff on it. It's insane. So, you know, like if I were Games Workshop, I don't know. I just take the I don't care thing. And that's happened at Blue Table Painting, where I was just like, ugh. Like, it was just such a breakneck speed, and then I just wound everything down into this different version, and I'm just happier. Oh, by the way, I would love some new orders. Time for people to get off the bench. Anytime Games Workshop announces a new edition, I get a little slump, and it's like, ugh, I gotta fill it with something, because now I don't have this giant reserve of projects, which, by the way, that's good in some ways, but it's bad in some other ways, because then you're backlogged. And that's no es bueno. However, now it's going really smoothly. Things are getting through at a really good pace. Sometimes they're what I call artist choke point, where like a specific artist has to do the part 3 of this army, and then you're kind of just waiting on that one person for their thing to go. But generally, I'm doing good. All right, so we're back to Chris F. Yeah, this is going to be a huge one. I'm already at 15 minutes. Favorite movies or novels? Oh, I don't know. I have some favorites. I love time loop things of any kind. Love it. I don't know why. I just love that genre of science fiction. I eat up everything. I think I've seen everything time loop related. So I love that. I love the whole concept. I would like that. I'd like a loop, but where I could kind of keep the miniatures I painted, you know? Like I'd put them in like a special portal, and then those would go into the next loop. Time compression is interesting to me. Okay, RenF says, favorite sci-fi settings and what makes for a good sci-fi lore base. Oh boy. All right. I'll have to think. Okay, so first off, one day I'm in the produce section and I saw a Darth Vader sticker on some bananas. And I was like, oh, well, I hate Star Wars now. It's become so commercialized that I'm just like, all right, can we just not talk about it? But I do love Star Trek. And that has its own fan base second guessing problems. Just, it's the fans that are horrible. To produce something really good, you kind of have to not have that voice in your head. And I think that's why things nowadays can be really good, but they suffer from an effect. They suffer from the comments effect. That like anybody can just, it's this cacophony of just voices, and the majority of them are just tearing everything down. And again, people in my generation, typically those that are funding or creating or moving these things forward, not always, just saying, we come from the age where we weight those voices too much because they're written down. We weight a comment as like an ad in a personal section. Like you're reading it, somebody paid for it. That's like if to make a comment cost $1 or $10, well, then people would think it through first. That's interesting. But, you know, disenfranchisement and all that. Okay, favorite sci-fi settings. Oh, this is a tough one. What makes for good sci-fi is a good premise that's explored well, but not obviously. So, like, what if this happened? Black Mirror is a great example of that. I love Black Mirror. Any of that could be turned into a series or whatever like that. A weird thing that's happening now is that because of streaming, more things can become series. Like instead of remaking a movie, they can just make it 6 or 8 part series, or maybe even multiple seasons or whatever, and really explore it. And I think that does really well for some stories. All right, favorite book. One of my favorite books is called Mythigo Wood. M-Y-T-H, like myth, A-G-O, Wood. That's a great book. You should definitely read it. I loved it. Read it again as an adult and it still stood up. So there's something to be said for that. After I turned 30 and was starting my business, 35 and started my business, I stopped reading nonfiction. I was into politics, so I read tons of political books, and then I just ruptured an artery in my head with it in 2012. Something specific happened too. There were 2 things. All right, I'm just going to tell you. One, I started listening to Alex Jones, and I was just like, yeah, and then I was like, wait a second, I can't get upset about these things. I gotta stop. And I was just eating so much. I was like so upset, and that's all I wanted to talk about. And I could see like the pained look on my poor young wife's face, and I was just like, oh. And then the other thing was the, I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the 2012 Republican convention. I was watching it. I was like, oh, dang. Because they read because you're supposed to like take the ayes and nays, and it's supposed to be like this vote thing. No, they read it right off a teleprompter. The powers that be literally typed the winners' names in, and those were the people that were announced. The delegates didn't matter. It didn't matter what the people said. It was already decided. And I was just like, oh, wow. And of course that happened like at an age when, you know, people had cell phones. Otherwise you wouldn't have even known about it. It would have just been done more or less behind closed doors. And when I was going nuts for it in 2010 and running all over the countryside, and I actually like met senators and things like that, I had a flip camera, and sometimes I'd be like, hey, I'm doing a little blurb on the internet. Can I have you in it? And I'd put it up, and they'd just be smiling because they thought it was like a still camera. I was like, oh, the technological like gap was like, even with that, was like still there to not really understand what's happening. And I'm just like, oh boy, I better stay with it so I understand what the heck is going on. My kids and my artists help me with that because the artists are always young. They're usually 20-somethings. So, well, not always now. Okay, on to the next thing. You know what? Hold on a second. I got to get some water. I should have thought this out ahead of time. By the way, I drink a gallon of water every day. I drink 8 of these things. And I don't have to force myself either. Like, I like water. Okay, Rick K says, favorite game night snacks or meals, your own Appendix N, what you've read, watched to inspire your own RPG, what it takes to balance a bestiary, keeping enemies challenging but beatable, how to scale that up, down, etc. Okay, I can't do all that. I don't have favorite game night snacks or meals. We usually go to like a Subway place or get pizza. I mean, Rick, you're doing it better than me. I can't possibly improve your situation, but that's what I like. I like Hostess snowballs. I like, for snacks, Hershey's chocolate is a favorite, but that's not really a snack. Frosted animal cookies, always a fave. All right, what I've read or watched to inspire your own RPG. Yeah, I just for making my own system. By the way, you can't copyright systems, and you can't copyright general ideas. Like, you couldn't copyright guy with sword or guy with magic sword. You can't have that. You can have a very specific thing. You can have a whole bunch of words, like a novel, in a certain order, but you can't prevent people from kind of telling that same story. And so with my setting, because I'm doing a campaign setting in rulebook, and by the way, it's super close. It's insane. It's ready for alpha, for sure. And it's what's inspired me. Momentum, the idea which came from Infinity, the role-playing game. That is awesome, where you get like a bonus point to like do re-rolls or effects or things like that. I love that. And momentum also is the idea that if you get your turn done in a certain amount of time, I don't know if I got that from them. I think maybe I came up with that, but like if you get, like in my games, I've experimented at Valhalla with this. If you get your turn done in 15 seconds, you get a momentum point. And I literally have little tokens that I give out. People love that. There's like literally an economy of these things. And so I love momentum. I love the idea of threat or heat, which is the same thing but for the DM. So you have these tokens sitting right out in front of you, and you'll just take one. You'll be like, 2 guards happen by, bam, and that just like keeps things going. And like the players do not like that threat pile. And how the system works is a momentum, among other things, can give you a reroll. Sometimes you need that reroll, and it's a mechanic that helps bad things from just disjointing everything, like save or die. You know, if you had momentum, you could have save or die, because they say I spend a momentum to re-roll it, and you can re-roll anytime you like if you give the game master a threat token. So you can get a momentum, but you got to give the DM a threat. So I said GM, then DM. Notice. And so that's awesome. And I noticed the players, they won't give it to me because they know I'll use it at like some terrible moment in time. So that's an answer to your last question. How do you do things challenging but beatable? You can use that very simple mechanic to whatever. And in the system I wrote, I took momentum and expanded it into this much better and more interesting thing. Like it's a real economy during a session to have momentum. There's group momentum too that goes out in the middle and becomes like a pool that anybody can just grab out of it. And so, okay, keeping enemies challenged but unbeatable. Pretty soon I'm going to start a Facebook page called OPDM, and because that's my style, overpowered, and I have a whole library, probably a third of a novel, on just creatures I created to just give them a bloody nose. They're so awesome. There's specific mechanics that you can use. First off, your bad guys have to be able to stay in the fight. Your mid-level guys, your high-level guys, your bosses, they have to last more than 3 rounds. So how can you do it? And one mechanic I have, Alien Physiology, this is for 5th edition, is they can only take a certain amount of damage, say 20 points, from a certain attack. And that's it. So you can't, no matter how much you do, it's capped at 20. And if they have 128 hit points, they tend to last a while if there's 6 of these creatures on the field. And so that's one. There's other ways to do it I can't think of right off the top of my head. You can do like a barbarian effect, like they take half damage from certain things. You can have a damage reduction, like from Pathfinder, where, you know, they just, every single hit they take is reduced by 10. That makes things really hard to beat, especially if that damage reduction, if they're only dealing maximum 15 points of damage, DR 10, oh, that's a steep mountain. And they get it, and always make like a workaround for it. So like with the Alien Physiology, I usually have like one type of damage that goes normally on them. Have supplemental creatures that do healing, like acolytes that are just around, and they can heal them to full or give them 50 hit points, or and that helps them stay in the fight. And then the players have to make a tactical decision: do we deal with these healer guys, or do we, you know, keep beating down the boss? Because if it's just the big boss, then, you know, they can just pound. They can concentrate fire. Don't make it that easy. Make other threats on the board. The other thing I advise is have minions around. Just things that don't even matter. Guys that can just be one-shot. And you would be surprised how much the players waste on those guys. And if they want to fireball them or whatever, there's tactics. Because now those little minions they're next to friends, and they're giving flanking bonuses. And they're generally just getting in the way. They're making casters make concentration checks. Make sure you throw a lot of flunkies into a combat, and it's so much more interesting. Oh, why not? 12 cultists are there all of a sudden, ready to die for their master. All right, Stephen P. Hey, how's it going? Chunks. The slow death of tabletop gaming. Gaming groups are down. Warhammer is really the lone big name. And how to change it? I don't know. I'm not seeing it. If there's a death, yeah, Games Workshop was like the Microsoft of gaming, and still is a majority, over 50%. And, you know, it's up to us, the fans, to get into stuff and be excited about it. But I got to tell you, you need critical mass to get a group going. So, like, if you play Warhammer 40K, you can go anywhere in the U.S., and there's probably a good group for it there. And there's a name for this, I can't remember. Like if you're into pickleball, harder to find a group than if you're into mountain biking. Stuff like that. So I think what will happen is, thanks to the miracle of the internet and social media, and that people can connect a little more easy. Remember, in the 80s, you used to have to physically go post flyers, and like, you know, you had to get an ad in the newspaper. Well, I'm coming up on a half hour. Wow. And the camera automatically splits into 2, so don't think I'm doing that. So the answer is an individual, a charismatic individual, is just going to have to get gaming groups going and cooperate with very cooperative, smaller game companies who are ready to give you some swag and give you some support. GW used to be like that. back in early 2000. I remember in 2003 going to Rogue Trader events, and they were doing that. Now they just don't need that, and that's the evolution of things. And Games Workshop is definitely in the bastards stage, where it's there's going to be a decline and a rebirth. They're probably in a rebirth already. So the answer to that one is fans and cooperating with smaller company. And how many people do you need in your group? 6, 8? If you have 12 people all kind of into it, that's plenty. And just do a good job and be consistent. Show up every single week, and people will get on board once that momentum is there. But you need local leaders to do it. Mason M. Hey, how's it going, guys? You can talk about them remaking movies, the ones they have, better or worse, and the ones they should. Man, I'm just at a loss. I don't go to that many movies. I usually just like things, so remaking things is fine. I literally off the top of my head can't think of any things that's been, and I know there is. I know I've probably seen a movie in the last 3 months that was a remake of something else. I'm sorry, I'm just blanking on it. But remaking movies, yeah, well, it's tough. Because again, in the 80s, like when they made Predator, they just made an action movie. And they didn't have to worry about, kind of how everything was being portrayed. So, and I think there's going to be sort of a loop around with that. Like you'll have a small, devoted fan, I don't know, like a fan base or a segment of society such that you literally just can make whatever. And that is true. Get on YouTube. It's not all censored or self-censored. It's there's plenty of awful stuff on YouTube. But the problem is you can't get that sort of common consciousness as easily anymore because it's not being controlled by a small group. There's a group of people. There isn't like, oh, there's 2 big summer blockbusters. Everybody went and saw them. No, there's 10 different subscription services, and it's all fragmented. My kids, so for example, for Halloween, I got my kids, more or less all teenagers, to watch Aliens. They had never seen it. So they're watching Aliens, and I'm like, and they were like looking at their phones. I was like, "Pah! Get those phones out of here. Watch them." And they were like, "Oh, that's what people are like spoofing all the time." They weren't in it. They couldn't get their brains in it. They were just out of it. They were just sort of watching it like these, like people that just happened by the movie theater and kind of poked their head in, and they didn't get into it. So I'm like, are my kids getting those sort of gestalt experiences? All right, well, that's all I got so far, and this is a half hour, so I feel like it's good to go. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got something out of it. And I've got more things to show you, of course, like projects.